everyone. Susie here with Fateless, and today I'm joined by Brad. Welcome, Brad. How are you?
Well, what's going on? Good to see you, Susie. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So, I think the theme of the week is Q&A. So, you just got done with a Q&A podcast, didn't you? I heard a content creator had some hard questions with you, right?
Yep. We were hanging out with Ragewood a little bit earlier here, with Simon and Paul. So it's always fun to do different versions of kind of trying to get to as many questions as we can here through the development process.
Yeah, so that will actually be the podcast that should be posted this week. So stay tuned for that. I know Ragewood was going to ask some pretty fun, interesting questions. We'll have to see if we got any leaks out of everybody. Probably not. We'll see. Maybe. But on that note, we actually have something really fun planned very soon. So spoiler alert, there is going to be a developer Q&A live stream through this YouTube channel soon. It's something we're working on, and it will become a regular thing. I don't want to say a date yet because we haven't, they're busy. They have conventions. We're going to make sure we get that date secure. But stay tuned, guys. We have a really fun live stream to come with the devs. So to kick that off and to kick all this idea off, I'm like, all right, Brad, you're on the design side of things now, and I want to do a little bit of a design Q&A. So how has it been to go from content creator to designer?
Yeah, it's been amazing, and I'm super thankful for Fateless kind of bringing me on and letting me be a part of that team. Everybody I work with is awesome. Dirk and Paul and everybody else. So it's actually been a goal of mine from the very beginning. So I kind of got started in the industry as a caster in like StarCraft, and then as a gamer and doing content for mobile. And the goal was always kind of in the back of my mind of I want to someday be a part of producing games in some capacity. So it's kind of awesome, and it's a dream come true, honestly.
Oh, that's awesome. Love to hear that. Yeah. And how about you give a quick TLDR? What's your job description? What do you work on for Fateless?
Sure. So I kind of, do a little bit of everything in terms of helping out with like the podcast and different YouTube stuff like this video right here, or community stuff. We used to host events in Discord, or I'll pop in and say hi. But in terms of like the 9 to 5, the main daily workload here at Fateless, my main job right now is to research different mythologies, different heroes that we're going to be thinking about having in the game so that I'm mentally equipped and prepared as good as I can be to try and implement them into Godforge in a way that makes sense in our universe. So kind of researching what elements they are typically using, or just different parts of their lore, if they're super aggressive or super primal, or if they're more passive, or if they tend to be more of a support that's healing. So that way we can try to have heroes that make sense in terms of what kit they're bringing to the game. And then I'll do a first draft of a kit for a hero, and then it will start going through our review process with Simon and different people kind of signing off or requesting changes, and then I'll have to go kind of design that hero in a technical way that the coders and the development team can bring their kit to the game systems wide in terms of implementing it.
Awesome. And you said you're involved in some of the other systems, like you mentioned a victory screen, right? That sounded really cool. So actually, before we go into the hero side of things, I had a question to you about the process of that. So working on that victory screen, what do you think was what makes a victory screen satisfying? Like when someone hits that end of the battle, what do you think is the key that a developer needs to land? Is it animations, fonts, colors, sounds, something else? The combination? Like what do you think is the key that you guys were really going for to make that feel satisfying?
Yeah, that's going to mean different things to different people. I know for me, anybody that's familiar with my content from back in the day, I'm a spreadsheet nerd. I love analytics. I love diving in to, crunching numbers and min-maxing. So for me, one of the most important elements to get right is what information you give the player from their run. Like, do you want to know how much DPS each hero did, or how much healing each hero did? How many turns did they take? Like different things like that. I want information given to the player that gives them tactile feedback on what hero brought value, maybe what hero didn't do much, and I can think about replacing them. Like, oh, this hero did 1,000,000 damage. This hero did 100K. Okay, maybe I need to go look at their gear and figure out how to kind of min max that and bring it more into line. So I think the metrics that we give the player for information immediately available after a run would be a super key element for me.
I agree. That's so true. It's like you think about the visuals, or some of these games have fancy animations as you end a battle, but really it's about the numbers, and that's a really good point. I like that. All right, so on to a little bit more of the kits and characters. This one's from Adventures of Adam. I have a question from the community. So, are there any buffs or debuffs when testing that were either too good or too bad that you're just like, no, this needs a big nerf, a big buff, like we can't do this. Like you just had to like you thought it would be simple and you're just like, nope, this just doesn't work. Dramatic change from the norm. Like, does anything stick out to you as far as that goes?
Hey, what's up, Adam? By the way, good question. Yeah, this happens a lot during the design process. Is typically someone will be assigned to design a certain amount of set bonuses or a certain amount of debuffs or buffs, and then the whole team will get together and be like, "Ooh, this is way too strong," or "Hey, this is a little bit weak. Let's take a look at this." In terms of like testing, that's going to be a little bit down the road
Okay.
when we've got more of a beta ready product. So we can sit here and really just grind our own game and test PvP and play against each other and try to converse about what we think is really going to be overpowered or what is really lacking. So
Okay.
right now it's mostly discussions and just based off of everybody's knowledge in the industry and playing all these different games. And the testing will be here in probably 1 to 2 months or so when we can actually dive in and really have the game ready to like go against each other and stuff and figure that stuff out.
Okay. So the metrics of figuring out what's too strong or too weak, it's really just the numbers on paper right now, and then you'll really see how they play together later. Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty. All right. So, what about? All right. We know there's going to be many different upgrade systems in Godforge. Like, what are we aiming for? Are we aiming for something like Watcher of Realms, where it's something that's more like simple? Okay, you have promotions, you have gear, you have artifacts, a limited amount of resources, or is it going to be more like Raid, where there's tons and tons of stuff? Like, aiming for the perspective of whether we're keeping it simple, or are we really going to let there be a lot of different currencies, a lot of different upgradables to really let people customize their accounts? What's the goal so far for that you've gotten as far as a
Sure.
gist of things?
The goal would be to strike a good middle ground. And, I know there's lots of games out there, mobile games are notorious for this. There's like 88 different currencies and people don't even know what's going on. I know there's some
Exactly.
games where I'm a new player, I'm testing them out, and I'm like, I don't even know what this currency does. Like, okay, I got
It's
this
true.
reward. I don't even know where to spend it. So we definitely don't want to be that on launch where people get like 19 different currencies on day one and they don't even know what they do. But we do also want people to be able to flex their knowledge muscles in terms of customization and building things. So
Okay.
it's going to be striking that balance. I don't think we're going to overwhelm people. Like there's going to be so many things they don't know what's going on, but I do think they're going to be able to customize things. And then one of the things about game design is maybe you don't overwhelm the player base on launch, but you want to make sure you're set up to constantly introduce new things to them after the game has been new and it's kind of past that honeymoon
That
phase.
makes sense. Yeah.
Keep introducing things, slow rolling things.
Mhm.
That way you don't overwhelm players and they always have something new and exciting to kind of dive into.
Makes sense. Yeah, that one was from Runa, and I have another one from him. What stat, attribute, or mechanic were you in love with, if this applies, but did you have to give up on because it was too complicated, too much time, too much engineering resources, limitations? Was there anything that you really wanted to implement that you're like, this just doesn't work, we can't do it?
Yeah, one of the things that we are lucky enough to have here at Fateless is, we already have kind of a large community, and we have an amazing group of founders with Simon and Phixion and Sham, and we have lots of investors kind of backing us and going to bat for us. So in terms of like the basics that we want to get done, we haven't really had to scrap
Hmm.
anything because of
Okay,
resources.
that's
Yeah, so
great.
so yeah, we're lucky enough at Fateless to kind of be in a position where all the basics we want to do, we're able to get done. Now obviously we don't have the $500 million budget of like an Amazon Studios game or something, but I think every basic system that we want in the game, we're gonna be able to get in the game. And the main concern is making a cool game that isn't like too crazy on day one. Like we don't want to
That's
we don't want players
true.
to dive in and be like, whoa, I don't know what's happening. So like I said before, it's kind of finding that balance. But the good news is, if we really want something in the game, we're gonna be able to get it done, and it's gonna be there.
Awesome. I guess this kind of goes along with a question from Bet My Wookie. He mentioned, so is there any kind of stats buffs or debuffs that were hard to implement? What about not money, but just like mechanically, the trying to maybe it's coming up with that right formula to make this be balanced and not overpowered, or just straight implementing it into the game. Maybe it's timings with the actual animations. Like, is there been anything that's been like way more difficult than you expected it to be regarding creating these types of like mechanics with buffs and debuffs?
Yeah, the funny enough, the one of the more difficult things that we have to revisit basically daily is the actual syntax and the vernacular of how we say things. Because you've got thousands of different things happening in thousands of different ways. And it's like, how do you write that skill just word wise so that it's consistent and it's easy to understand and the player gets it? And we're just daily finding exceptions when we're designing a hero.
Interesting.
Like, wait, we can't word that. We can't say attack one enemy 2 times and do this multiplier because, well, what if it's what if it's only a single target hit and it's not it's just there's always
Oh,
thousands of things
yeah.
like that come up. So you start to learn that
Mm.
part. So when you see discrepancies in games, now I kind of laugh because I'm like,
You
yeah,
get
I
it.
get why they had to word it like that. Because like the player might be like, this is confusing. Why didn't you word it like this? And usually there's a reason for that. Like, oh, it wouldn't have made sense because it would clash with the way we worded it over here. So funny enough, the syntax and how we're
Okay.
going to write skills to present it to the player ends up being a big project that we have to talk about daily.
It's a lot of like order of operations, like math, like PEMDAS.
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
making sure
Like
things flow in a way, if that makes
do
sense.
we say place defense down for 2 turns on the target, or do we say place defense down on the target for 2 turns? And
The
what
littlest things can
this
make a
and there's hundreds of those. Like what order do we list it? What will make most sense? And
interesting.
then it ends up clashing with something else. So yeah, it's a daily challenge to try and have our game be easily legible for the player.
I guess that's part of the fun of being on the other side, right? Like you have the player perspective, but now we get to see a whole nother side that makes I feel like I'm way more understanding in every game I play. I'm like, even just hearing the conversations and not being a developer myself, just hearing you guys talk about everything, I feel way more patient with other games I play because I'm like, okay, I get it. I hear us talking about that too.
Well, I can actually give you a definitive example for this, and it actually made me learn something. Is so like in Raid, I don't know if we can pop it up on the screen while I'm talking about it, but there is an epic hero, Allure, and Allure has an A1 that says attack 3 random enemies and lower their turn meter. But that's
Hmm.
actually not what it does. That's not what it does. So Allure actually targets one hero
And then hits
and
them three
then
times.
no, and then hits 2 random targets.
Oh gosh, okay.
Yes. So and I didn't realize that until we tried to have an ability like that, and I was like, "Well, how have other games worded this?" And then I'm like, "Wait a minute, it's not even right." So, and that's like the tough part of the so like do we say attack 3 random enemies? Do we say
Three
attack at
times,
random 3 times?
yeah.
Yeah. But then how does the player start the ability? So they click on the A1
And they
and then
expect it
what
to
do they
go to
do?
that one person.
do, do they just tap anywhere on the screen and it goes off at
It's
random? Like so
true.
so it's just thousands of little things like that you don't really know until you're on the other side. But it's fun and I love doing it and it's gonna be a constant kind of battle to do it as best we can.
Yeah, even King Arthur has like a passive with Morgan that she places a defense down on all enemies, but it's only really on the enemy you manually click. That one enemy is the only one that
Oh
actually
yeah.
gets that. The hit goes to all enemies, but the debuff doesn't. But you wouldn't know that just by
Yep.
reading it. So many little subtleties that yeah,
Yep.
that's hard to clarify. Oh, I love that. All right. Well, okay. I want to wrap this up with a more fun personal question too, related to both sides of things. So, is there any hero that is kind of a personal, like, passion project of yours? Like, maybe before this, did you have any characters or skill sets in mind where you're like, oh, I really wish this character was in Raid, was in Diablo, was in any game that like you wish, I would love the skills, and you made it happen in Godforge. Is
I do have one for sure. We haven't leaked this hero
okay.
though,
So it's to come.
yeah,
Okay.
and when the time comes, I'll definitely be transparent about that, and I'll say who it was. But I definitely have a hero that just is from somewhere that Sham got me into, and once I saw that hero kind of come to life and everything about kind of the personality and on the battlefield and stuff, I was like, I can't wait to bring this to Godforge, and I can't wait to design the abilities
Okay.
and stuff. Yes,
That's
and see the
fun.
artwork. So. I'll definitely tell everybody why as soon as I can.
All right, I like it. At least a little mystery. Alrighty, but yeah, we have so many other fun things we could talk about regarding design, but I think we should leave it at that for now. And the Q&As, there's so much more to come. Like I said, we have a fun podcast coming this week, and very soon we're going to have the actual devs on a live stream answering your questions. So guys, make sure you're on the Discord. We're going to be popping in a channel for you to ask questions. But Brad, I have to say thanks to you for joining me today. I know you've been so busy with the current sprint. You guys are working so hard. So thank you for taking the time to join us for this week's video.
Yep, it's always fun. Thanks, Susie, and cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.